I'm Matt Braunger. This might help.
I am not a doctor.
This might help.
I'm not a professional.
Let's have fun. This honestly is a good time.
Honestly, I got no idea what I'm doing. What's going on? Who are you?
I'm Matt Braunger. This might help. The podcast.
Hey, welcome to This Might Help with Matt Braunger, the comedy advice podcast that's just for fun. As I always say, if you need clinical help, this is not it. You should go to therapy, like I do, if you want. You know, no pressure. But as always, this is for entertainment. We try to keep it funny, and we got a fun little hook that we do, and that's what it is. A lot of people do come up to me on the road and say, I really like the podcast. It does kind of ease my day, which, great. I think podcasts are here to keep you company, most of all, in this lonely, dark universe. But yeah, it's for fun. Anyway, thanks so much for calling in and for the kind words online. With that, I just want to get right to my guest. She is a new friend, but a good friend, and someone who I'm a fan of, who came onto the scene in a big way, and she's handling it with aplomb. Is that how you say aplomb, I think? Please give it up and please welcome Hannah Einbinder. Hi, Hannah.
Hey, Matt.
How are you?
I'm excited to be here. This is my favorite thing to do, truly. Both comedy and advice giving. These are my things.
You're not being facetious? It's
No,
okay if you are.
100% serious. I am, one of the native Los Angelino over-therapized
Nice.
individuals that you meet in your travels, and that's a big part of who I am, and so I'm really ready to let it out.
Good. Yes, you are very funny in your comedy, very open in your comedy, and a very open person. I feel, within reason and all that, and very well adjusted for your age. I hope you don't take that for an insult.
No, I appreciate that. That I better, after all that shit, I better be, I think.
Well, you had a good mentor. Your mother was on the show too, Lorraine Newman, for those of you who don't know, and she, speaks kind of highly of you, which is not no.
Sure. Look, I believe it.
Very highly. Actually, I haven't been to therapy in maybe 3 weeks. I usually do every 2. So that reminds me, I need to text Alan. You're in therapy, yeah?
I am in therapy. I've been with a woman for truly 15 years.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm 26. Do the math on that.
That's
Sad.
amazing. She's
Bad math.
You and her have been through a lot.
Yeah, and I think, when you think about like what's better, meeting someone, kind of like more formed and they get you where you are, or having them literally watch you grow up.
Yeah.
It does help her having context for things like growth and events, various, relationships and things and patterns in real time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really, I think that's really helpful. But I think, I think there's also an argument for just, grabbing therapy wherever you're at, whenever you need it, and trying to work backwards from your current perspective, which, as we all know, is distorted by all of our, various traumas and fears, et cetera.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I didn't start therapy until later in life than most people. My parents, put me in front of a therapist when I was, I think, a teen, just to be like, hey, maybe try it. And me and this guy just kind of stared at each other. I don't have any, because it's like, I definitely had, sadness and some depression as a child, but nothing that I look back. I definitely had trauma on certain levels, but not to be like no trauma most kids don't experience, but no trauma most kids don't experience, like being ostracized, being bullied, things like that, where even then I was just like, it's the way of the world, man. I just didn't see it as this kind of thing to talk about. Maybe it could have helped me, but I definitely needed it once I got into my 20s, though I didn't realize it, and my 30s, which thankfully I did,
I got to tell you, when you said the word ostracized, it made me realize that is the first big word that I remember learning. And that just gives you a little clue into what was going down. You know what I mean?
That says a lot.
Why did I know the word ostracized in second grade?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that was when I started like really getting picked on too, was second grade, like
mm,
hardcore. And so I think it's funny. It makes me think maybe was that 7 years old, basically for me, 7 or 8. Is that when that kind of thing just really kicks in, when we start forming a little size and our brains get bigger and we're kind of little people? Because
I mean, every comedian must come on here and say like that they were bullied. Like,
yeah, bullied and or they bullied them. They bullied as well.
oh
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's pretty probably typical as a survival tactic to be like, get it off of me, put it on somebody else.
Oh yeah, seriously. I mean, that's the story of the Irish in America. Like, hey, at least we're not black. Like that's basically how the whole, kind of the concept of a white race was formed, where it was like
Oh,
no one had really used that term.
wow.
So it's like, but I don't know why I went so broad, but yeah, it's human to be like, look, stop beating on me. Let's all beat on these guys instead. When you're a kid and you're bullied, you're like, all right, quit. Listen, this person is
Yeah.
worse than me. The
Yeah.
things you make fun of this over
Yeah.
there. Just stop. It's
Yeah.
all deflection.
Mustache, glasses, disguise, newspaper. He went that way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Did you start performing when you were young, when you were like a kid, or?
No, I was I mean I was an athlete. I was a competitive cheerleader, which is
Yeah, I remember you said that. 'Cause when we were in Austin, we hung out a lot and we were talking about physicalities, and I was kind of like, yeah, I have to work out, or it helps me mentally and stuff and physically and all that jazz. But you were kind of like, I did all mine when I was young and ruined my body. Like, I'm using your words.
yes, it's
And
true.
I was kind of like, wow, but I didn't want to go, what'd you do?
Yeah.
Like a bunch of us in a room, and and I'm sure you're just like, all right, I'll trot it out. Yes, I was a javelin person, whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah, so you did competitive cheerleading.
I
Whoa.
did. I did. Yeah. It's a very intense world physically
Yeah.
and mentally. I would argue maybe mentally more so.
Mhm.
And and that says a lot because it's one of the most physically demanding, difficult sports that a person can do. We have a
Without a
little
doubt.
saying in the cheer community, that athletes lift weights and that cheerleaders lift athletes.
Oh
So,
yeah,
yeah,
and cheerleaders.
and cheerleaders. Well,
Wow.
cheerleaders being the athletes lifted.
Yeah.
So it is acrobatics, it is gymnastics, it is dance, it
Yeah.
is high endurance, it's stunting, which is the lifting of the and throwing of the people in the air, and the injuries are pretty standard with all of those things.
Yeah.
With dance you have the hip, the joint pain. With gymnastics you have possible breaks and various sprains and things like that. And with stunting you risk falling, and I was a flyer and I fell. You fall every practice, you fall constantly, and you're falling from great heights. And so yeah, that all did do kind of a number on me. But yeah, I it was performance, like it was in a very good way.
Yeah, that's the first thing I think of, was in terms of, anytime I've been that from my, you know, brief sojourn into sports as a kid. Like I played soccer and like just a taste of football, a dab on your tongue. That's
Sure.
it. Anytime someone gets injured, it's like, don't gather round. Someone's going to help this person. You want to look away. And so I think of not specifically the injuries, but you getting thrown up in the air. You're not getting thrown up in the air in an empty forest with a bunch of people. There are people looking at you while this happens. And so
Yeah.
that
Right.
increases the intensity of it. So you have sports, but it's in motion. The
Yeah.
cheerleading thing is like all eyes on you. 1, 2, 3. You're going up in the air, kick, touch your toes, and land.
Yeah.
Very intense. That's really admirable. That's amazing.
I mean, it ingrained in me something that is both a blessing in my life and a curse in my life, because I had really intense coaches, and the the subculture that is cheerleading is so intense, which is like, if you're not first, you're last, and there anything short of perfection is a failure. I mean, it's really like when you think of those Russian gymnastics coaches and like how horrific and intense that shit is, it's very much like that.
Wow.
And you know, when you think of that like you really don't understand, like there is a ton of like breaking you down and building you back up.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of like pain is weakness leaving the body, like all these like shit Marines are fucking, you know.
No, everything you said is military that I was thinking.
Yeah, it's very that. It's very, very, very that. So that, you know, that leaves a lasting impression. And so it creates a really intense work ethic. When you're working at a craft.
Yeah.
The transition from like, you know, cheerleading to stand-up comedy is interesting, because cheerleading, like, there is objectively a correct way to do things and a correct way to master things, whereas stand-up is just, you're just chasing the dragon, you know, forever. No way to master it, completely subjective, you know. The best comedian, there's no such thing as the best comedian. It's fully based on the taste of strangers. So it's really healthy for me. I love that about it.
Yeah, no, I did too. I was never jealous of professional athletes, because it's just all or nothing, and there's rankings, and they're undeniable for the most part. And it's nothing. I mean, I would say dance or something would maybe be the most objective, but yeah, I mean, that's one thing I like about stand-up, is that someone could get a line off and you're like, oh, I did not see that coming out of that person. That was really cool.
Yeah,
you know, the equivalent of a guy whose face is covered in blood getting his ass kicked in a boxing match, and he gets a real good shot in that staggers this guy that you think is going to kill him. Like, to use a really weird and awful analogy, I'm reminded, I was like, you know, you have those things you've said in your life where you're like, wow, I got it. I got that one off, you know, like, I can't believe that came out of me. And it's still one of the things, just no one heard me but one guy who was awful, but it's like, I'll always have this moment. So we had this open mic in Chicago that me and all my friends who started in, called the Lion's Den, where you'd go and you'd sign up, and then they'd ring a bell, and you had to have your name in by the time the bell rang. But as long as you got in there, everybody got up. And so it'd be like, 50 people in a night. Everyone did like 5 minutes. And we always kind of try to push ourselves to do like a new 5. And there's this one guy who, I won't mention his name, but he basically saw himself as like kind of a Bill Hicks dude, and like, I'm edgy, I'm cool, and really, kind of obnoxious. I got along with him fine, but he's a lot. So one night there was a guy at the back of the room, a black gentleman who had a camera, who was filming like with a video camera, and he, all he was doing, turns out, everybody found out, not that anyone cared about this guy in the room, he was filming his friend's set for his friend. But the guy who I was talking about, the dipshit, was like, he pulled me aside and was like, and as Dwayne Kennedy, the guy we all looked up to, used to say, Chicago, come for the food, stay for the segregation. Like, it's incredibly segregated even now. North is all white, South is, very black, so is the West. So this guy, who's a white guy, pulls me aside and goes, hey, they're filming us. I'm like, who's they, man? He's like, that guy. He's like, you didn't know this? They'll film our sets and take our jokes and take them to the South Side.
Oh my God.
So insane, so racist. But I got off, like, bring it on, but in reverse, and stupid shit. Like, and he's like, huh? Like, I don't even know if you'd ever seen Bring It On.
Yeah.
For those of you listening, Bring It On, basically the white cheerleaders steal the black cheerleaders' moves and film them and take them back to the rich white school. So I was like, yeah, well, I knew it was horseshit. I knew that guy was not doing that. Like, they're not going to steal my jokes about roller skating with a sparkler in each hand. They're just not. They're not. There's no one that's going to, it's like, the joke is so dumb, and it relies on my physical comedy, but it's like, I always like remember, like, I'm sorry I had to share that so long.
But you know what? It is such a beautiful sort of meeting of these two interests like that. The reverse Bring It On is like, I am the target demo of one for that.
Yes, that's why I had to share it, because I'm sure that movie, that world.
That's what I saw that movie and I was like, oh, I will do this now. That's how I found out about cheerleading.
Is that right? That movie got you into
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
Oh my
100%.
goodness.
Changed my life.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So when were you just like, all right, I'm done with this and
Yeah.
I'm looking at other things? Or were
By the way, to clarify, not the cultural appropriation part. I wasn't like, oh yeah, want to get involved. No, I
kind of assumed. I just went ahead and assumed that.
You know, you gotta say, but yeah, just the like sport itself. But I stopped doing that. You know, it kind of fizzled out because my team was very competitive, and then when I went to high school, the high school's team was very bad. Just like by comparison. And so I kind of like gradually lost a lot of my skills. I remember the last round off back handspring tuck I threw on turf, and you know, Simone Biles, she and look, this is not going to be a comparison to me and Simone Biles, and I want to just get in front of that. But,
I think you guys in the same category, but go on.
I don't know about that, but you know, she described when she was saying, I'm having trouble at practice. Yeah. She described a little bit of that fear. Mm-hmm. And I have, in my own small way, on a far smaller scale, experienced the exact same thing, where you are physically throwing your body in the air and some switch flips and you no longer see it. You become scared of something that you've done for so long, and you kind of watch it slip away. Yeah. And that day that I remember so vividly, like trying to throw this tumbling pass and doing a round up back handspring, but the tuck is a backflip, is a flip with no hands. Okay. The act of doing the tuck, because I was out of practice and not, training properly, it scared me and I couldn't do it. And I walked away, and I, from that day on, it just, I gave up. And it was sad.
That's a natural progression. Mm-hmm. I don't see that as a failure at all. I see that as like, you did this thing, and then it was like, because I mean, come on, talk about something you age out of.
Yeah, 100%.
I think anything physically competitive, how can you not?
100%.
How can you not?
So true.
And good thing you didn't just go like have that psycho Ayn Rand mentality where you're like, I'm just gonna keep. I'm just gonna go until I'm really hurt.
Just like, a 57-year-old LA Rams.
Yes.
Spirit. But by the way, there is no way to do cheerleading as a profession. Like it is unless you open a gym and open a small business and coach and create a team with, a team name with, various teams as a part of that gym. So there'll be like, the team, and then there's all girl level 5, all girl level 4, all girl level 3, small all girl, large all girl. You have like various teams within one gym. It's the only way to be involved in cheerleading and have it be a bit like, there's no Olympics, there's no professional football, there's no professional basketball. Those cheerleaders that are at those games are dancers with pom-poms. They're not doing stunts. So it's like this fucked up thing where every girl who does this sport, girl or guy, there is an end point. And at the same time, you have to give everything you have to it. Yeah. And so it's just this thing with this expiration date. And no one tells you that when you get into it. You don't know. So it's all of us have that at one point where we have to walk away from something that was an identity for so long. Whoa. It's pretty intense. But the transition into stand-up happened much later in college. I was kind of a stoner, like the whole time I was on high school cheer. And that was kind of like my identity kind of shifted into that zone, just like such a weed head. Like that was, those people who like being a stoner is their entire personality.
Yeah. Or it takes up like 70% of their life.
Yeah. Yeah, that was me for
Okay.
a great deal
Sure.
of high school and the first half of college. And then I joined the improv team in college. And from there, the comedy thing just started pretty randomly. Some like a guy I was working with at school was like, "You're funny. You should try out for the improv team. I'm the president of the team. You should try out." I was like, "Okay." And
A
literally,
recruiter.
yeah, I got drafted into the improv
Sure.
world, as we all do.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend had my friend CJ Sullivan had this great joke about. He's like, yeah, I mean, I was discovered young, like a model. Guy just Guy just saw me in a ball pit at McDonald's, the ball in my mouth, making faces. He's like, "You got the stuff, kid. Stay fat." Like that's such a perfect like short joke.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I mean, I waited tables in Chicago and was just trying to do acting in that town, and then I had guys and gals who did the improv and were like, "Oh, you should start taking classes." And I'm just like, I don't even know what this is.
Yeah.
And then I kind of that was me. That's where I got started.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to get in that era. There was no improvisers and stand-ups didn't even talk. They hated each other. It was like beyond Hatfields and McCoys back then in Chicago. And like now it's kind of like, not to say we all get along, but
Stand-ups still think improvisers are ridiculous.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. And I'm sure improvisers think stand-ups are,
yeah.
pigs and kind of.
And aren't we both right? You know what I mean?
No, we're not. Yeah, we're not both wrong. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can take good and bad from both in
Oh yeah.
just bushels for sure.
Oh, stand-up comedians, the beacons of moral purity.
Oh, of course, we always have been.
Yeah, we did.
Not self-centered. Definitely consider other people's feelings and rights.
That 100% morally sound
Yeah.
group.
Yeah. Well, I remember Dana Gould telling me about you before I'd ever seen you. I'd met you, but at Largo, because you came to a show, but I'd never actually seen you stand up. And Dana was like, "Oh, she's great." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know this person was funny because you were so quiet when I talked to you first time." Which typically is an indicator, like to kind of still waters run deep and all that jazz. But did you start doing stand up after college?
That's, by the way, that's so nice. And I love both you and Dana so much. And
You too. Thanks, buddy.
so nice of you to say. I started my senior year of college.
Okay.
Nicole Byer came to our school and she asked if any of the kids on the improv team wanted to open for her. And that I wrote like 8 minutes or whatever like 12 minutes or whatever, like as quickly as I could, most of which was, obviously unusable garbage. But
Always.
Look, that's the way it goes. But yeah, I did. The first time I did stand up, like my first like show was opening for her at my school.
Whoa.
And I got the bug and started going to open mics and writing kind of obsessively. And then when I graduated, I moved back home and moved in with my mom and just got a coffee shop job and started going to open mics.
That's great. I love that. That's such a cool origin story because it's not the kind of typical thing which I hear, which is just I tried this and I tried that, and then I just either that or oh yeah, no, I always wanted to since I was 3.
Yeah, right, totally.
To me, stand-ups were completely aliens when I was a little kid. Like I really dug them, but I was always like, no, I am an actor.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And like
Totally.
I still do both, but acting's like the friend who sometimes comes along to borrow money or something. Stand-up is basically my wife. Stand-up is basically the one that's always there for me, or like to take to make it more platonic. Stand-up's like my buddy, my best friend. That's kind of like there for me all the time.
100%.
Yeah, anytime I've met somebody who they just do acting, I'm so knocked out. I'm like, wow, I'm so impressed.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I would not be able to really doing doing only one thing, whatever that one thing is, it's so I mean, the dream for most people, I think, like
Sure.
a lot of comics are like, I just want to do stand up. And I, for the longest time, was like, I'm just a comic, dude. I don't fucking do any of that shit, dude. I'm fucking pure, dude. I'm fucking, because Dave Chappelle says you got to just be a comic. You know what I mean? Like, I was very like brainwashed into that sort of idea that you got to be a pure comic, dude. Don't fucking act. Don't do
sure.
Like,
Yeah. I when I lived with Kyle Kinane and I moved to LA together, and like I was working a day job, so was he, and both terrible day jobs. I was a PA. He sold cake decorations over the phone, and I got a manager. I started doing commercials, and I could tell Kyle would like, anytime we get in an argument, he'd be like, "Oh, you're fucking," like we'd kind of rip on that or whatever, and I'd be like, "I'm paying for all the beer." Sack of wet shit. Like it was that thing where it was like I knew people that did it. They were just like whatever, and it's like I had parameters, still do. Like I don't even go out for something unless it's okay. This product is fine and it's not harmful and friggin', and it pays really good. I'm just not even gonna go in, kind of thing. It's like that's not. But like back then, not that I do anything, but I was in a goddamn Summer's Eve commercial. Not proud. I got a great joke out of it, but like
what you got to do, like
exactly. But I think it's funny. Back to you, where we should be. I think it's funny that you were like, "I'm just a pure stand-up," and the universe was like, "Oh yeah, you want a show where you play a fucking stand-up and you work with a legendary one? How about that?"
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's crazy, and I have since like I'm all about, and here we are on the podcast that touches on various ideas around therapy.
Sure.
I am so like I am happy to have changed, completely flipped my view on it, because I now have a more fluid approach where I believe, and I truly do believe this in my heart, that whatever we do creatively is merely an expression of our soul, and the medium is irrelevant. However that comes, if we connect with the work, or if we have a funny take on whatever we're doing, if we're making people laugh, if we're having a good time, that is comedy. It's not like, oh, well, stand up is only no, like that is even even dramatic shit is, one side of the same coin, so it just like all of my, of course, and again, it all comes back to fear. All of my like, well, I'm just a comic, was me being afraid to fail at something new. I had already failed at stand up, and I was failing all the time at open mics and getting my sea legs, and I was in a good spot, and I was like, I'm happy with my comedy, I'm good here, and I don't want to start failing again, and that's where all that comes from, of course. But it's been really nice to view it as merely a beautiful medium with which through which I express my being.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think you saying that and feeling that way genuinely is how you got how you got that part on Hacks, and B, why you're so good in it. And like it's that thing where I think you have to have a little reluctance and then also a little bit of confidence, well, more than a little, but also like I say this, I've said this a lot on the show, but there was this comic book I liked as a kid called Long Shot, and the guy's whole superpower was he was lucky. Like if he would like there was someone on a train track and the train's coming and he would like run and jump, he would definitely save the person. But if he went to Vegas, he would lose, because it was all about purification of motive. Are you doing this for the right reasons?
Wow.
You can always tell when a performer is or isn't, kind of thing. And a lot of people who aren't, they succeed, and God bless them. I don't see a problem with it, but I feel like you're so much better if you're doing it for the art and you're doing it for who you are, kind of thing. Where, I always say, like, don't get on stage and give the audience what you think they want, because you really don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know. You might take a left turn and they're like, oh, this is great. I
Yeah.
did a set at the store last week and I did like 2 jokes, 2 new things I never said, and both kind of just not ate it, but like whatever. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I just shot a new special. I got nothing, and I'm just digging a hole. Want to help me dig? And I got this huge laugh where people are like, okay, like now we see you. I see
Yeah.
who you are. Okay, great. Well, give us something else.
Yes, the honesty always break. I feel the same way. Like every time I quote unquote bomb, it is a set filled with failed attempts and then honest recoveries that crowds are like, you're fine,
Totally.
because it's like it is about the connection. Like if you just bomb and you don't say anything about it, you're not there.
Totally.
You gotta.
And nobody wants to see you bomb. Like if you had a show of like these comedians are terrible, laugh at them while like they eat shit. It's like you're not getting a full house. You're not getting a huge house. People are like, why would I waste my time? That's horrible to watch.
Yeah.
It's not, it's so bad. I firmly believe people erase it from their memories. I can't really remember a lot of times I've seen someone eat it, and I've seen thousands eat it. And but you remember when someone killed.
Yes.
Boy, you remember that.
You know what? That's so funny. I am now trying to recall various other like friends of mine, and I'm like, it's not coming up.
Isn't it wild?
But I remember, like, yeah, you're so right. It's almost like it's like weird, like opposite negativity bias.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to other people, you see the best. But when it comes to yourself, I mean, I have just such vivid memories of me like coming off stage and apologizing to the host, being like, hey man, I'm really sorry.
Totally.
Really sorry about that, man. I hope you still want to look me in the eyes.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've also crushed and been like, did I do okay? I think it was good. Like, yeah. I remember a guy in Portland, I got off stage and he was like an older local and he just got me so good because like I destroyed and I get off stage and he goes, that had to hurt. You all right? And I was like, like for a second he got me. I was like, screw you, Ron.
Yeah.
He got me so good. Like he knew exactly when I went over to, the bar to get my coat. And it was like in a moment of like, look, let's talk. How are you gonna be okay? I don't want you to kill yourself tonight.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're so eager to believe to hear the what is looming under the surface that we're bad.
Yeah. I mean, as much as Mel Gibson sucks, like that episode of The Simpsons where he makes a movie and there's feedback and Homer didn't think it was violent enough, and so he changes the entire movie because one idiot's like comment. Everyone else loved it. One guy was like, and it's just like, that's the guy I'm gonna believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That awful guy is right.
Oh my God.
He's not.
He's not.
He's not. Yet, like, what have you taken away from? I mean, have you dealt well? Do you think with the attention and how because that show's pretty big. How it has been a lot. It seems like it might.
It has felt like a lot at times. I have been, I do feel really fortunate. Like it is just such it's like a dream situation, and I could not ask for one more thing. Like I'm done. I'm not asking anymore. I've done it. I've asked, and I got it. I'm good. But I also am, I have struggled to remain present in the lives of people I love because I am overwhelmed with various appointments and things and, events and meetings and the this and the that, and I'm on the road and, doing a lot of road stuff. And so, it has been an adjustment. It has been a new lifestyle that I am struggling to keep up with at times, but I luckily have a lot of really understanding, loyal, great friends who understand that I'm pretty bad at just like any sort of multitasking or any sort of, which is what you got to be able to do. So I'm working on that.
Yes,
but
of course.
it's just an adjustment, and a lovely adjustment that I am grateful for, because it is certainly different than having to clock in for my fucking opening shift at the coffee shop at 6 a.m. after a night of various open mics and shows that is just taking years off my life. But so I that is ever present in my mind, and so I definitely feel like absolutely the good outweighs the bad. But yeah, it's been an adjustment.
Yeah, and listen, you don't have to say disclaimers. I mean, it is a dream role on a dream show, with a dream co-star. That goes without saying. It's obvious you're grateful, but it's kind of like, I'm just checking in on you, because it is a lot to be dropped on you. Like, I mean, I was on the Halloween episode of iCarly in 2007, and like, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Literally the first line of my new special, I just come out and say that as if that's something everybody's thinking, that kind of thing.
Oh my God.
If you look at pictures of me, I'm 40 pounds heavier, and like I have this huge head of curly hair. Like, I look nothing like myself now.
I don't get to see a picture of you, because in 2007, I was watching the show live, baby. Okay. I fucking saw the shit. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
but yeah, it's so specific and weird. Like, it's so fun to have had this IMDb that has all this random. I was like, I was a human crash dummy who came to life in Pushing Daisies. Fucking, you forgot? How did you forget? But like, that's the fun of this. Yeah, I mean, that's the fun of this business, where you see someone, you're like, oh my God, you were the kid in Christine, and now look at you, you're a man. And you're at this party, it's awesome. And it's great to kind of just own that, and this'll be one of your things, which is super rad.
Yeah,
so that's cool. Yeah,
it's a hell of a one of my things.
Yes, it's a hell of a one of your things, for sure. Yeah. Well, on that note, I feel like we've covered a lot, and if you're ready, we'll go to the calls. I should tell you, I don't hear them. I don't know what's coming. We got a couple. I do have a couple that people like DM'd me on IG, but Renee does go through these, and so we're not gonna have someone be like, "Fuck both you guys" and hang up. Though that might be fun. Renee, if you get one of those, you can put it through. Don't. But yeah, you're ready. Let's roll the. I'm like tempting fate. Weird if a car hit me. Okay, so let's roll the first call. I'll shut up.
Hey, this one definitely goes out to Hannah Einbinder. So from one bisexual to another bisexual, which I know you won't answer me on Instagram if you're single or not. I guess I'll just give up and take the rejection. But do you find that, can you like have a fulfilling life, like with that identity, just with like one gendered partner? Because I found that I've struggled with that, like living a monogamous lifestyle. Just kind of wondering, as a bisexual woman, like we've noticed from you and Ava, you go girl, what is like life for bisexuals look like in their relationships? And is it something that we have to like, or we resorting to an open one just by identifying that way? I don't know. Let me know. I like your thoughts, because you cool. You are a bi-pie delicious dish.
I think I should take this one.
Yeah.
I do my part to be a straight white male. You know
what? Thank you for your service.
Shut up. Obviously, this is all you. Mike, go ahead.
I want to thank you for that question, and I want to let you know that this idea is something that I think every one of us experiences, toys with, it's always kind of bouncing around in all of our heads. And I definitely don't think that I'm, an authority figure on this in any way. I can only speak to, my experience. And first of all, I'm sorry that you're dealing with that, because I know how it feels. And a lot of us feel that way. And the beauty of queerness to me is that, when you are with someone who sees you fully, you are able to express that in a safe and honest way. So that, means that, you can be in any sort of situation that you feel safe in and comfortable in for as long as you feel that way. And, I don't know about you, my parents are no longer together, and they had a wonderful relationship that yielded to semi-adjusted children. And, they are in, separate places now. And so, I think as we know and this is kind of a, this is not necessarily like the end all be all, but I would say that, various people come in and out of our lives. And as long as you are open to that and respectful to who you're with at the time, you don't have to, I guess you can open your mind to the possibilities of various loves, and different loves at different times based on how you're feeling. And, the best thing to do, by the way, thank you for calling and asking this, because the best thing we can do is talk to each other about it, because we are kind of, the only ones who understand this thing of, feeling fulfilled in a relationship, but having a piece of your identity that is, seemingly, if you are in a monogamous relationship, quote unquote, maybe on hold, or, not feeling as present as the other. But to try to sort of look at the identity as a collective thing that exists within you at all times, regardless of your partner, is super important, because a lot of that, in my experience, is internalized by phobia, right? Because that all centers around the idea that, your sexuality is a reflection of the person you are dating. It's not, it's who you are. You will always be who you are. And if you are bisexual, then that's, not something that is dependent on your given partner at any given time. I think about this a lot, and I don't 100% know the answer, as more than what I've, expressed. I don't know what it looks like, as someone who's 26, I'm figuring that out. But what I do know is, we're not alone. There are a lot of people in our community, and, there is no limit to what our queerness can allow us to do and experience. And so I would just say that, go where you feel you are respected and safe and loved, and where you feel happy for as long as you feel that way. And, maybe your life will be full of various loves, and that's not a bad thing. And I'm trying to make sure I hit all the questions. Was that?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it, at least as far as my perspective goes, obviously. But also the thing I can say is that as an older person, when I was younger, I would get stuck in the end all be all too much. I would go, well, what if it leads to this? What if it leads to this? What if in the end, stop it. You're so far from the end. And even if you are old, you have to go moment to moment. That's the rule of life.
Mm-hmm.
to sanity, I think. It's almost like alcoholics are like, I never say I'm not going to drink ever again. I say I'm not going to drink today, because the whole rest of my life is impossible to imagine. And all I can get through is today. So it's not to make it all severe, like life is addiction or life, but we do have needs. We do have things we should and shouldn't do, obviously. But I think how do you know when you're with this how do you know if you can only be with one person? You won't know until you're with that person.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. I think I can't speak from the perspective of a bisexual, but I can say from the perspective of a human being who's had a lot of relationships. You don't know until you're with that person that can't even say fulfill your every need, but fulfills more needs than most than ever has, and you like fulfilling their needs. It's finding that partnership, really.
Yeah, meeting someone, expressing who you are to them, knowing 100% that they see you and support you as a queer person is mandatory in a relationship, because it is not a pardon the plan word straightforward thing. It is complex and it is ever evolving, and so constant communication around it is I think the key, just to making sure you're checking in with where you are, and you're getting into those sort of conversations is super important.
Yeah, and that's really scary. Being honest is really scary. It's really scary to hear honesty and really scary to share it. But if I can't even tell you the amount of times where my life would have made so much more sense and would have been so much easier had I just shared exactly how I felt. Not that I lied, but it's just the best policy. And side note, I wish straight didn't mean what it meant, because I grew up with Black friends who would like say I'm straight in terms of like I'm okay. Like in terms of like, hey, do you want a soda? Nah, I'm straight. Like that's the best expression, and I wish we could use it as human beings, and we kind of can't. It shouldn't mean not gay. It still implies that
you can say that.
Crooked.
You're saying,
I'm just saying take the word straight out of the whole thing.
Right.
Call us hetero, whatever you want to call us, whatever we decide. But like,
you're saying straight implies that I see that queer is not.
Yes. Normal. And or like the regular. So
I will say that I actually love, like, to me, I hear some people like squares, right? If you meet a square, they go, that's weird. And that means that weird is a bad word to them. To me, weird is a very, 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 very good word. It's high praise.
Yes.
So crooked or weird or whatever. I mean, crooked is now.
Totally. I'm not saying I want to unweird queerness at all. I just want the term straight to get taken out of it. So it just means I don't want another beer. It just means like I feel okay right now. It just means everyone uses it.
Totally. 100%. I'm saying like more like if somebody were to be like the word queer, synonym of queer is weird. Like
yep.
That is so like I actually think it's good.
Yeah. I want to bring back, what like my like older like uncles and things would go. I think that guy's, like I think we should bring that like that little hold on.
Yeah.
Where it it's just you just show a little bless you.
Thank you.
You show a little reticence in your face somehow. And isn't she? So ridiculous. Yes, go on. What are you saying? That's been one of my favorite things when someone's trying to be like wink, wink, nudge, nudge with me. I'll always be like, I'll just say it to make them feel uncomfortable. And they're like, hey, well, hey. And I'm like, no, wasn't that what you were saying with your weird face?
Oh my
What,
God.
she kisses chicks? Hey. No, isn't that what you meant? Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah, just come out with it, literally.
Just come out with it. That's it. So hope that helped, caller, and thanks for calling in and sharing the term bi pie, which I'd never heard. Okay, so caller number 2.
Goddess Hannah. Hi, I love you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. My advice is, I was wondering if my mom and I have always been really close, like Gilmore Girls close. And I love her to pieces, but as I grow, I've kind of began to see her own unhappiness in her own life. And how do I grow in my own life without feeling like I need to stick around for the sake of her happiness? Have a great day.
Drop that. First of all, goddess, you. Okay, you are the goddess. Thank you for calling. Matt, you want to start off on this one?
Yeah, so she's basically saying like how she feels kind of held back by her mom.
I interpreted it as her mom's sadness brings her a great
Oh.
deal of sadness. And so how does she uncouple from it? It sounds, and I don't want to project or, project anything onto you, but it does sound like some pretty classic codependence stuff that I am super familiar with. Both my parents are, addicts. They met in AA. And so codependence is a huge issue for me. I understand that. I relate to that so much. I am someone who struggles with a lot of, anxiety and depression. Both my parents do as well. And so separating those feelings is really, really hard.
Yeah, I would say like my mother and I are extremely close because we're extremely alike. And we both have hot tempers. We both, very emotional, kind of tightly wound. And I have my thing, she has hers. But I remember there's a book called The Great Divorce by T.S. Eliot Lewis. What am I saying? C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis, who it's basically an analogy for the separation between the afterlife and our life and what we make into a heaven or a hell. And there's one character. It's just people who are either they're dead or they're all newly in the next world. So there's a woman who has lost her child long ago, and now she's in the next world. And she was always, I guess, a very domineering mother. And she's like, "Where's my child?" And all these angels or whoever's there are like, "Your child is fine and very happy. Let's talk about you." And she's like, "Give me my kid. That's my kid. Give me my kid." And they're like, "It's not your kid. You're you. You're your own you. And that kid is its own kid, and it's a person." And she just won't hear it because we tend to think mothers own their children. They don't. When I had a daughter, one of the things that was hard for me to accept, but also glorious to accept, is she has her life and I have mine. She's going to be into different things than me. I'm going to disagree with her, but I'm going to live and die loving, seeing what she finds in life. So you can't let yourself be hostage to your mother's anything. You just can't. You can be as supportive as possible, but in the end, you have to say to yourself, and I would say it out loud, my life is my life and her life is her life. So definitely help her with her depression all you can, but there's a certain point where you're allowing yourself to be caged by it, typically out of obligation. I always think about all the things my parents gave and sacrificed so I could be where I am, and I can't ever forget that, but I can't be hostage to it either. I can't be a dick about it and be like, "Send me money, man, I'm your kid," but it's an interesting point to reach in your life where you realize I am not yours. I'm not part of you. You're you and I'm me. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally. I would also say that, you are clearly a source of joy in your life, in your mother's life. And so, I have found that encouraging various behaviors that, do, at least in the littlest sense, aid in various, depressive brain chemistries, walks and journaling. And, in my case, it's like a meeting here or there, like a CODA or an Al-Anon thing. Like, I would say that, you can only help your mother as far as suggesting good behaviors and things that, affirmation journals, things like that. Checking in with her, being with her as much as, you feel is still allows you your space and your time. But just really, really trying to ingrain the idea that, it is not your responsibility and that's not cruel, because even as I say, it's not your responsibility. Even, my shit flares up where I go like, well, that's mean.
Yeah.
It's not. And so I would just say to try to create boundaries and do it in a way that feels incredibly intentional, because if it's just loose, it's going to be hard to maintain. But I hear you and I feel you. And I'm sorry about that, but I have faith that you can find a good balance.
Yeah, you have time and you have space, and it's going to take some doing, but like I said, you're not hostage to it. You have your own life to lead. So, yeah. Are And pep up. You not only had a super short call, but we knew exactly what you were talking about. So that is rare on the show. We need someone rambling forever, or they go, "Yeah, how do you find a new girlfriend?" Beep. Come on. Because, I need more. I need more. Okay, so let's get to a couple people wrote in, and those. 1 second. Okay. All right. So first one, no question. Please let Hannah know she was great in Hacks. Thanks.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Disagree, but that's very common.
I hear she's a bitch, but okay.
I found out Braunger doesn't like me on his show. That's so.
Yeah.
Why have me on?
Just told me right there. Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. This one's for me. Whatever happened to Randy the Halloween doll? Kyle, when we were roommates, bought a doll. Is a man-sized doll named Randy that we called Terrifying Randy. I don't know if you heard Kyle's joke. And he was like a muscular doll, and he had little short shorts on and like wild eyes and a shock of black hair. And we called him Terrifying Randy because you get up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water or pee, and you'd see his head in the moonlight and be like, "Ah!" Oh, get me all the time. And a guy that sold it to Kyle was walking home, and a guy opened a van and went, "Hey man, you like Halloween?" Like, it's a whole story. So I get asked about Randy sometimes. I don't know where Randy is. When I moved out, Randy was in Kyle's care, and as far as I know, he gave Randy to another family.
Wow. Randy went over to live on a ranch.
I think
He's got a lot of room to run.
Randy got taken out behind the barn.
Yeah.
Randy is living with a family on a farm, so to speak.
Yeah. Randy's in Halloween heaven.
Yes. Oh, wow. Okay, this is tough. How can I overcome my depression when my wife isn't supportive of me?
Ooh, passive aggressive, baby. Wow.
Came out of nowhere.
Dang.
I feel like I ran into a signpost walking through the fog. I did not see that coming. Okay.
Support. I mean, I need more. I think I need more.
Yeah, I think.
Supportive.
Hey, whoever undercover Batman 51690 is. I mean,
which, by the way, Bruce Wayne. That's what the account should be. So undercover, Bruce Wayne is what that is.
My friend works as a location manager, and he worked on a Christian Bale movie. And my friend's one of those guys. He just he makes friends with everybody. And so Christian Bale found out he was getting married, and he was like, "Hey, congratulations, mate!" And he's like, and David, being crazy, goes, "Yeah, you should come and object as Bruce Wayne." and Christian Bale goes, "When is it?"
No.
And he tells him, and he's like, I'm doing a charity, but he thought about it. Can you imagine? Just like, and it was
the
this
costume.
In a beautiful suit, probably.
Oh, as Bruce
I object. My name's Bruce Wayne. I'm a millionaire. I own this place.
Oh, all my right, first God.
Off, and don't even Batman. Just asshole the room. 2 women with him. You're all losers.
I love that.
Look, I know how life works.
I am sorry to whoever wrote this, because you did say you were depressed, and then we just incessantly made fun.
No, I know, but we've talked about depression. I mean it. I mean it.
We all got it.
Person who wrote, like, if you're watching this, just call, and share. I'd love to get into it with a guest. It's just like we don't have enough information.
Yeah, I would just say, general depression advice. It is a battle. Every day it is a battle, and it is a war. It is a battle, and both a battle and a war. And it takes fluids, it takes nutrition, it takes practice, it takes various difficult seeming and difficult in practice things. And for me, it's all about making a list, checking it twice. Write shit down, try to fit it in when you can. Mm-hmm. Intention. And
I would also add, only you know your wife, but not like you know yourself, and just be honest with yourself and go, is she not being supportive, or am I asking too much? I'm not saying one or the other is true. Just something you got to figure out. So anyway, call in. And specifically, you could be one of those people who, might want to talk to a clinician, might want to talk to a therapist, because we are just,
Yep. Couple fuckers.
Couple of fuckos, really, couple of chuckle fucks. Oh, here's a fun one. How to act in front of God, parentheses, AKA Gene Smart.
How to act in front of God. Look, every time I meet her gaze, I dive directly into the depths of the ocean deep. I lose myself and I wake up and we're moving on to the next scene. I have said this many times, that Gene is both a god and the most accommodating, loving, supportive person, the most patient person. She, if you met her, before you had the chance to feel intimidated and scared and like, oh my God, this is Gene Smart, she would say something to you and make you laugh, or say something to you and make you feel comfortable. She goes out of her way to create that comfortability and that ease, so that you do actually feel like you're seeing her as the very gorgeous and lovely human being that she is. It is it is like a sound bath. Like what's that thing where you're in your body temperature water and it's dark?
A float. Yeah, where you float, like the sensory deprivation tank.
Sensory deprivation, exactly. It's she makes you feel very comfy. It's very nice.
And I will say, that's awesome to hear and not unexpected, but I will say you're one of those people who describes a sensory deprivation tank as something good. Because you've been through it. You've been through the therapy, you've been through the trauma, and you've dealt with it and all that jazz. I had the funniest exchange because my wife loves them. Like, she's like, I love just floating in there and no stress and no one's calling me, because she's a manager. And I was scared and I did it. And I was like, this is actually really cool. I got out and they were like, how was it? And I was like, interesting. And they're like, everyone says that. You can't say it's all the way good or all the way, it's not bad, but long story long, it was so funny when I met a very young dude who worked like editing videos and things and GIFs and stuff like that. And we were all talking about it, and he looked over his shoulder, like he was at his little station, and he was like, oh, I couldn't take 5 minutes, man. I was like, I thought it was so funny. And I was like, oh, you got a long way to go, young guy. You got a long way to go. You're definitely a guy, if Instagram is down, you put a fist through like drywall. It's like,
snacks, baby. You're going to be on the road for a while.
Need it now. You need it right now. Yeah. Answers. I don't want to get in my head. Me? I don't want me. Gross.
I don't want to release the idea that I am a physical being. I don't want to realize that I am just a soul bouncing around this meat suit. I want to go to the gym.
All matters is vibrating energy. Go to hell. Yeah.
Not on my watch.
Yeah. Okay, so this guy has written in this a few times, and it was I don't know if you still do it or not, but your final question. What's the most fun you've ever had smoking weed with a fellow comic?
Cameron Farmer is an amazing comedian whose stuff is like kind of very alternative, kind of like clown adjacent. They are a dear friend of mine, and I have to feel really safe with someone to smoke weed with them, because I will talk,
Yeah.
And if I'm with someone who's not on that level, I feel self-conscious and I feel like they're mad at me,
Yeah.
you know? So I need to be with someone who's firing, you know, and just
right
going
on.
and going and going. And,
Right on.
you know, it helps because Cameron is such a stoner. And whenever I do dabble in the Mary J, which is seldom, but I do revisit her
Sure.
from time to time. I want to be with a stoner because I want to be with someone whose brain chemistry formed the way mine did, just constantly suffocated by weed.
Right.
Just from a young age, you know, brain developing, just gripped by Mary J.
Yeah.
So like we think about the world in the exact, like it's very similar. And so, you know, being in the park with Cameron under a tree,
Yeah.
going on a walk, you know, I love them and I love being with them and smoking with them. So really anyone who's really on that level, ready to, you know, get down to it, talk about the trees, the grass, the sky, you know.
Totally. I don't really smoke anymore, but you know, it's like, who knows, there might come a time and like it wasn't that long ago I last did, but I never do much. But it's like, yeah, it's, if I'm going to climb the mountain, I want a Sherpa. Someone who's been up there a lot, that are like, look, the thing you don't get about Everest is there's dead bodies everywhere. Just get that in your head right now. They tried to make it and it's too cold and high to move them because all we can handle is supplies. So you're going to pass some skeletons. Don't let it freak you out. Such is life. Thing about life is you don't see the skeletons, but they're there. Thanks, Sherpa. I'm glad you're adjusted to that because that makes me want to scream into the night.
Oh my God.
But,
by the way, please, is that a bit?
No.
Please, well, I was going to say, write that down. We are
I'll write
recording.
that down. That's my weed
so
Sherpa bit.
funny. That is so fucking funny. I have to tell you, that is so incredibly.
Well, my problem with pot was I would always smoke something insane and like would just go down some wormhole and be like, what's the point of anything?
Let me tell you.
Freak out so bad.
So same. At the end of my journey as a big stoner, it started to get real dark every single time, and I realized that for me to smoke weed, I cannot be inside. I cannot have walls.
Okay. Yeah.
Around it. No walls.
Right.
If you go there, no walls. You got to be outside.
Yeah.
You got to be outside. It's got to be beautiful, and you got to be moving. You
Yeah.
gotta walk in the daytime, afternoon, possibly evening. Okay, not night.
Yeah.
But a little bit of sun, walk, and an upper weed like a sativa, maybe a hybrid.
Yeah.
That is the combination. That is the recipe.
Yeah. I would.
For someone who can get crazy in their head.
Yeah.
High CBD, so you're not going, 30% THC psychotic.
Right.
High CBD ratio. And that's, for me, that has been the key to not losing my fucking mind. Like,
yeah, I hit somebody's outside of the Hollywood Improv like 7 years ago, and it was just so aggro that I had to walk around the block, one of those like faceless homes, like probably 100 times before I went home, where I'm just like, this is too goddamn much.
Oh, and to be this is an interesting question, because there are comedians that I'm like, oh my God, you're my family. Like, I feel so safe with you. And there are comedians that I'm like, oh, I'm truly in a war zone. Like, this is scary.
Yeah,
so to smoke weed around comedians is such a volatile thing, because
oh my God.
if you're disarmed, like, people will strike. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I can show no vulnerability. There's no chinks in this armor.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm realizing one of my chief defenses is just kind of going, the hell is going on? Like, people like that tend to laugh, and like I realize it comes out the weirdest times. Like, we live in a cul-de-sac. My wife and I were driving, I think we were driving the kid back from daycare, and we were going around the corner, and there was a girl right on the curb who was like, had her dog and looking at her phone, and like, is she stepping out? Is she not? Is she? And we're trying to turn, and it's like, ugh, and we're like, we're about to go, hey, excuse, and then she notices us, and we notice she's basically wearing like a handkerchief for a top. Like, she's wearing like a top with full underboob sticking out, like, which, live your life. I'm not judging, but just kind of, she looked up and we saw that, we both saw that, and like, just like these pockets of breast coming out the bottom. And
Sure.
and I just went, what the fuck? What is going on? What's going on? And my wife like fell out laughing to the point where she almost couldn't drive, because I was just like, it was just so out of nowhere that like we were almost flashed by this person. It's just, and Kara's like, Rose, you dress like that, you're not getting into the house, and we're like laughing and stuff. But it was just, God bless her, amazing, but also just like, what like I wasn't ready for that at all. Like, what's going on?
You were disarmed by her by her
Yeah, and it made me realize that if I've passed someone that is almost naked like that, my reaction is like, what's happening? You know, and I only say it to myself, like a block away. It's not like va va voom. It's not like, well, all right, my day just got better. It's always like, what? Like I'm half laughing, half being like, what?
I have to say, I strive to reach the point of like self-love and comfortability that I would in my physical, oh my God, in my physical body. I look at that, and I look at that person, and I'm like, I'll have what she's having, you know.
Absolutely.
How do you get there?
Yeah.
Because I'm, two t-shirts in the winter,
right,
two t-shirts in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Turtleneck, just ankles. Like, I'm like, oh, is this a little like just like cover. So yeah, I want to know what that person is, what the recipe is there, because I'd like a little bit of it.
It's fascinating. There are a lot of women in my neighborhood that are like that, and it's always like, wow, look at you go, and it's the only male equivalent I see would be like maybe Silver Lake, maybe West Hollywood, and it's gay men, that are kind of dressing like superheroes or swimmers during the day, just like Speedos and walking around, which God bless.
Yes, God bless is the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
I wish that comfort on all of us. So
I do.
This is the end. Is there anything you'd like to plug while you're here? It doesn't have to be a project you're in. It could be. Whoops. Sorry. That was my catheter. just urine. No, that was my phone. That I use to see how we're doing on here.
That was my catheter. Matt Braunger.
Yes.
One night only, one man show.
What horrible autobiography. Wait, isn't he just in his 40s? Why does he have a what? He must have lived real hard. It doesn't have to be a project you're in. It can be anything you want.
Plug. I would love to plug friendship, just as an idea.
Love it.
Just love the concept of that.
Sure.
Laughter as well. I want to plug that.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and plug a podcast. It's not my podcast. It's one that I like. I like the podcast Fight Island. It is another comedian pod, Fight Island, and you should totally do it because you would have so much fun with the hosts, Sam Lyles and Jordan Dahl. It is kind of like Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay. Yeah.
Where I've done it 3 or 4 times. It's such a fun pod. It's super silly, super nerdy.
Yeah.
The first fight we did was high school archetypes. So you basically do 3 rounds of fighting. One is like lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight.
I think I did this 1,000 years ago. They're obviously Jordan's a Denver guy.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So they both are, I think. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I remember doing. Yeah. And you basically pick like what would win. Kind of thing. Or who?
You go into like the characters, like the homeschool kid, what is his arsenal versus the band geek versus, whatever.
Sure.
It's just one of my fave pods, gotta say.
Love it.
Love it. And, check it out. Those 2 are really awesome. So
nice. Well, thanks for coming on. This like kick-started my day in an awesome way. I appreciate you coming on, and I hope you had a good time.
Oh my God. Thank you. You are just a riot. I love hanging and laughing with you, man.
You too. Thanks, Hannah.
For sure.
That was amazing. Don't you want to be a part of this? Come on. Got any problems, any beefs, no matter how big or small? We'll deal with them in a fun way. Call in now at 323-763-0228. Again, that's 323-763-0228. And thanks.
This Might Help with Matt Braunger was created and hosted by me, Matt Braunger. Produced by Outer Circle Media. Executive producers Matt Kleinschmidt and Robert Kelly for the Laugh Button Podcasts.